If your SOC 2 plan starts with, "We need to get certified fast," you've missed the point. SOC 2 isn't a certificate, it's a report about how you actually operate. Hi everyone, and welcome back. I'm Justin with the Thoughtful Beard, your home for insights, ideas, and a scally cap. And today we're demystifying another confusing topic, the SOC 2 report. Recently, I was speaking to an entrepreneur. Their company and product are in the early stages, and they have a real prospect in pilot mode. During the early discussions of turning the pilot into a real deal, procurement shows up and says, "Send us your SOC 2 Type 2 report." With a note of panic and dread in his voice, he said to me, "Justin, we don't have one. I'm going to lose our first big deal. How do I get one quick?" I've been asked that question so many times in one form or another, and it's time to provide some clarity that you can use to make thoughtful decisions that you can act on. To do that, we're going to address 5 key topics today. What SOC 2 is, what SOC 2 is not, Type 1 versus Type 2 explained, do you actually need a SOC 2, and what do you do when they want it, but you don't have it? Jumping right in, let's talk about what SOC 2 is. SOC, which stands for Systems and Organization Controls, is a security framework that specifies how organizations should protect customer data from unauthorized access, security incidents, and other vulnerabilities. It splits those controls into 5 categories or trust services criteria, sometimes listed as TSCs: security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. When you get audited for SOC 2, security is always included. It's non-negotiable. The other 4 can be included in your audit if you so choose. Now that we've defined what SOC 2 is, let's define what a SOC 2 audit is. It's an independent review by a qualified CPA firm that produces a report that answers 3 fundamental questions. Do I have controls in place? Are they reasonably designed for the trust services criteria categories in question? And for a Type 2, we'll talk more about this later, did we operate according to our controls consistently over time? Simply put, the SOC 2 audit report tells your prospects and clients, here's how we protect your data, and here's proof we actually do it. So with what SOC 2 is out of the way, let's spend a few minutes clarifying what SOC 2 is not. This is where I see a lot of confusion. SOC 2 is not a law or an automatic requirement for every company. Unlike other regulatory bodies that require certification by the market you serve or the products you've built, the decision to pursue a SOC 2 report is solely at your discretion. It is not a breach shield. It is not a one and done. You're not chasing a report. You have to maintain and keep getting reports or proof that you're secure. You can be secure without it. You can have it and still be at risk. Simply put, SOC 2 is assurance, not absolution. Remember earlier when I listed the 3 fundamental questions that the SOC 2 audit report answers? I referenced a Type 2. So let me explain a little further. Obviously, if there's a Type 2, there must be a Type 1, right? What are the differences and which one do I need? Well, let's first define the distinction and then look at the progression. A SOC 2 Type 1 audit and report is a snapshot. It looks at a specific moment in time or date and validates that your controls exist and they're designed appropriately. Translation: the report confirms you've built the program. A SOC 2 Type 2 audit and report documents your track record. It actually looks back at the period of time, usually 3 to 12 months, to determine if the controls operated effectively. Translation: the report confirms you didn't just write the policies, you lived them. So when a buyer or prospect asks you for a SOC 2 Type 2 report, what they're really asking is, have you run this program long enough that we can trust you with our data? Now that you have a better understanding of what SOC 2 is and is not, and the distinction between a Type 1 and Type 2 audit and report, it's time to ask the question, do I actually need a SOC 2 report? Let's look at some of the considerations to answer that question. Answer these in your head. Do you handle customer data, especially sensitive data? Are you in business-to-business SaaS or infrastructure, financial technology, or healthcare adjacent businesses? Do you sell to mid-market or enterprise customers? Are answering lengthy security questionnaires for prospects slowing down closing deals? Are prospects explicitly requesting your SOC 2 report? If you answered yes to 2 or more of them, I'd give a SOC 2 report serious consideration. However, you can usually delay pursuing a SOC 2 report if you're very early in your company's journey and processes are changing frequently or weekly. You sell mostly to small to mid-sized businesses or individuals, and there's little to no security paperwork, or there's minimal sensitive data in your custody. At the end of the day, SOC 2 should follow maturity, not fear or one loud prospect. Continuing the discussion around whether or not you need or want to get a SOC 2 report, let's unpack the common pros and cons so you can further inform your decision. Some of the pros or reasons teams do it are because having a SOC 2 report reduces friction in enterprise sales, speeds up vendor security reviews, reuses evidence for questionnaires, and forces organizational clarity around processes and procedures. An often overlooked upside to going through the SOC 2 process is that the discipline required to complete the audit ultimately improves how the company runs overall. Now, some of the cons or pitfalls of pursuing a SOC 2 report are: a SOC 2 requires a significant investment of money, time, and ongoing attention. Once you make the investment to get it, you have to keep investing to keep getting reports and maintain your track record. Evidence fatigue and operational overhead are real. And if it's treated just like a checkbox, all you get is security theater that's only good on paper, but extremely fragile in real life. Remember, the goal in pursuing a SOC 2 is not to pass, it's to operate sustainably. Okay, so now you understand what SOC 2 is and is not. You've considered the pros and cons of pursuing a SOC 2 report, and you're leaning towards a decision. Meanwhile, you're still running your business day to day and selling to as many prospects as you can. And then it happens. The dreaded, do you have a SOC 2 Type 2 report and can you send it to me? Regardless of whether you made the decision to pursue it or not, the fact of the matter is, at that moment, the answer is no. So what do? How do you respond? First, don't panic. Not having a SOC 2 report doesn't immediately tank the deal. Next, recognize that it's a symptom, not the problem to necessarily be solved. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know I'm a huge fan of the question, what problem are you trying to solve? And that's how we want to approach this scenario here. So let's do that by first asking the prospect, why do you want the SOC 2 report? Is it a policy requirement that they have to have it for every vendor they use? Is it to speed up the procurement process by bypassing the need for lengthy questionnaires? Is it just a checkbox in their process and no is a valid answer that they just have to record? Have they been burned by previous vendor security breaches and are now using a SOC2 report as some kind of predictive or preventative measure? How you solve the problem could differ greatly based on what you uncover. So once you understand the problem they're trying to solve with their ask, it's time to be completely honest and transparent. If you've already made the decision to pursue a SOC2, you might add, we're still early in the process and haven't completed a reporting period yet, but we are pursuing it. Regardless, though, you can still provide them with alternative steps for moving forward. If they've identified that it was a policy requirement that they must have a SOC2 Type 2, probe into the criteria. Some organizational policies around SOC2 Type 2 define the parameters that require a SOC2 report. Sensitivity of data, system-specific accesses, etc. Proposing a phased approach or limited scope rollout might allow you to proceed without yet triggering the need to provide the SOC2 report, buying you more time to decide whether a SOC2 is the right fit for your business and stage of maturity. In some cases, once you're in use at the prospect, your practical track record with them is more effective than whatever the report says, and they may greenlight the larger project anyway. However, after all that, you may find that the SOC2 report is non-negotiable. They will not accept the risk via any other approach. In that case, it's okay to say, if the SOC2 type report is required immediately, we're not the right fit right now. Let's reconnect when we have one or when requirements change on your end. Remember this, the most expensive SOC2 is the one you do too early for one deal. So as we wrap up, I want to quickly go over 3 frequently asked questions that I often get. Question 1, can we skip the Type 1 and go directly to Type 2? In short, this will be up to the auditor, but I strongly advise against that. The Type 1 audit helps you lock in your design and ensure that it's satisfactory without investing significant time enforcing and proving ineffectual controls. It's also the basis for what the auditor will audit for Type 2. Question 2, how long is the Type 2 period? Commonly a minimum of 3 months and a maximum of 12 months. A 3-month reporting period will allow you to get the report faster, obviously, but a longer reporting period is more effective as it will provide more confidence. Remember, we said the request for a SOC2 was really, have you run this program long enough that we can trust you with our data? Having a report after 3 months allows you to have it, but it's not the optimal answer to your prospect's real question. And question 3, does having a SOC2 mean we're secure? No. It's assurance about controls and culture, not a guarantee. So as we wrap up, I hope your takeaways from today are, SOC2 is a tool, useful at the right time for the right reasons. Type 1 says we built the program. Type 2 says we can run it. Pursue it intentionally, and it accelerates trust. Pursue it reactively, and it becomes theater and stress. If you found this even a little bit informative or helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and forward this to anyone else struggling with understanding SOC 2, and feel free to check out my other videos on demystifying compliance or problem solving. Until next time, remember that on this channel, we don't do panic compliance. We do clarity. Demystify first, decide second, and execute deliberately. This has been Justin with The Thoughtful Beard, your home for insights, ideas, and a scally cap. See you in the next video.